Whether you are watching live or archived, we need your help to keep fun going. You can subscribe to First Updates Now on Twitch, give bits, or make a donation. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the description on how you can help fun.
Welcome everyone to Roast and Robots. This is First Updates Now interview show where we get to take a step back, relax with some amazing people in the community over a delicious beverage and our favorite mugs. I'm your host, Christina Tia from Wordplay All Day and the Neutrons, Team 125. Our producer for tonight's show is Tyler Oltz. And on today's episode, we've got a pretty awesome guest. He's an alumni of FRC 1625, Winnovation, formerly a mentor on 3928 Neutrinos, 148 the Robo Wranglers, 1296 Full Metal Jackets, and currently a mentor on 971 and team captain of Team Tantrum on ABC's BattleBots. It's Aren Hill. Welcome, Aren. Thanks so much for being on our show tonight. We're excited to have you.
Hey everybody. Happy to be here. I have a work water bottle because I don't own a mug. So I'm weird. I'm happy to chat and fill people in on some of the fun stuff I get up to with a bunch of friends and cohorts here. So
awesome. Can't wait to hear about everything that you do. I don't know how you have enough time to do all the fun things that you do, but they look pretty awesome. So tonight also joining us is someone who's usually behind the scenes as one of Fun's producers, but this individual is a designer for Hexbug and attended some of the filming for BattleBots. It is Nick Olson. So welcome, Nick. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, should be fun.
All right, so during this episode, we'll have a couple giveaways. So let's bring on producer Tyler.
Thanks, Christine. So today's giveaway is from Wordplay All Day, which is you, Christine. Thank you so much for doing that. And you can win a Woody Flowers pin for this. And all you have to do if you're interested in the giveaway is make sure you either follow or subscribe to First Updates Now, and we'll do that giveaway later on. You're going to see a keyword that comes up on the screen, and that will be your opportunity to get in on this. So once again, just make sure you follow or subscribe to First Updates Now, and our subscribers do get 5 times luck.
Cool. So we're going to hop right in, and we're going to get to know a little bit about Aren, because there was a massive list of teams that he's mentored and been on. So Aren, can you tell us about your experience as a student on Winnovation and how that shaped you into the insane mechanical engineer you are now that, builds all sorts of insane robot and non-robot things?
So my start to First Robotics was actually my mother seeing the Midwest Regional in the paper in 2004 and bringing me one day, and we came back the next day with my entire family. And entertainingly, family vacation stopped at that point in time. We started going to robot competitions for the next however many years, and they're still involved. And I have siblings across the U.S. mentoring teams as well. My brother Kellen's in Georgia. My brother Alec is in Minnesota. Both with Team 1746, and I forget the team number. Well, sorry, number, but Chicken Pot Pie in Minnesota. But when 1625 started, I was a freshman in high school, which there's a lot of benefits to having the team start when you're a freshman because you get to dodge a whole lot of anybody with seniority complexes. So it was a whole large group of people that didn't know anything, as opposed to just being the new guy. And the environment was one where it was very easy to grow. There was a whole lot of decently competent, good mentor side parents on the team that had a lot of experience in other arenas, but not necessarily anything to do with robots. So everybody was learning as a crew. And so I haven't seen footage of that robot in a long time. But one of my fun stories about 1625 year one, we left the St. Louis Regional with 4 trophies: highest rookie seed, rookie all-star, 0x creativity, and regional champions. And we were the 3rd seed and alliance captain for that. So I tell people that, and they think we knew what we were doing right off the bat, and that we had our act together. But the proof that we didn't was the fact we sent a 45-year-old bearded male out on the field for alliance selection. His name was Larry. He was the one who watched the most matches. We were not prepared. And we didn't know that it was standard for a student to go out. The rulebook just said a team representative. So we caught on once there was one random old dude out on the field for alliance selections, but they let it fly. So, and then we went to Champs and got our butts handed to us and saw a lot of amazing robots that year. I used to think we were good in autonomous mode because we could place a single Tetra that we started with in the middle, and then I see teams like 233 knock down one, place one, grab two off the autoloader all in the 15 seconds. And it's, all right, you're supposed to do this fast, and learned a whole lot. And then year 2 came back and were a lot more competitive and actually pulled off finalisted champs and #1 seed in our division. And then that summer we took it to IRI, and this is since I've been on the team. I would not condone this behavior that's happening right now. But no, my parents are still involved running the team as far as main robot coordinator. My mom is still handling that one, and my dad's still serving as robot build. And I think he recently actually handed off coach position to a team alumni who's still working in the area. So I had 4 fun years on 1605 and had enough area to run to learn whatever I really wanted. And back then I went to Chief Delphi and was able to put a decent filter on who to listen to, who to pay attention to. So I actually got to interact with a whole lot of people across the U.S. and across the world and learn from them. It's kind of funny because when I moved out to California from Texas, I'm in Mountain View now. When I moved out to the company here, I knew one person at the company. It was Travis Shue with 971. And then due to a fun series of events, my boss is now Travis Covington from 254, and who was not at the company when I started. And yeah, how'd that work out? But it's fun because he's a person I've actually interacted with back to like 2007, and I've known for that period of time. And then, as some people know, we've just slowly been acquiring more and more FRC people here. So
yeah, notice that. So can you let the rest of us who don't know what you do and where you work, what do you do and where do you work?
So yeah, I was about 2 years ago now. I started at Oris Health, which used to be Oris Surgical Robotics. They changed names for various reasons. If you look it up right now, what we have public is a robotic endoscopy setup for lung biopsies. So completely other end of the spectrum from a lot of the stuff I worked on when I was down in Texas at Vex. It's just a completely different challenge. One of the things that's just weird is like the sheer amount of money in medical space. So the product we have out now is actually setting up doctors and hospitals to be able to much more early on and have much better access to the periphery of the lung with regards to getting a CT scan and seeing a suspicious nodule that may be cancerous in the periphery of your lung. And so this setup is pretty much an Xbox controller and a flexible noodle that goes down your mouth and wanders around out into your lung. First-person view the entire time. Camera navigation. There's a 3D model superimposed next to the camera model with regards to scan data, and turn-by-turn directions through your lung to a nodule, and then taking a biopsy of it coming out. And that whole process can take a couple minutes instead of a manual version of this not being able to get anywhere near as far, taking up to an hour.
Wow.
So this product actually just went out on the market like a month and a half ago, and the company's been around for 7 or 8 years now. So
amazing.
So myself and Mason and a bunch of Poofs mentors and other 971 mentors all in the advanced development group playing with new toys. And then there's a little bit of cross-pollination back and forth. And I know there's at least 1 or 2 Vex team alumni in another group at the building, as far as just robotics people are everywhere.
That's pretty insane. So when you're not doing all those crazy things at work, can you tell us a little bit about what drew you into BattleBots, and had you previously done BattleBots before this year with, the smaller scale like leagues that a lot of the teams play in? And, how did you get sucked in, and kind of like what was your strategy, and, what did you initially come up with? How is that different from what you ended up with Tantrum? And tell us a little bit about the whole process and everything.
All right. So when BattleBots was rebooted in 2015 now, I was working down at Vex at the time on a lot of Vex Pro stuff and some other things there. And basically a group of us enjoyed the show and started getting together every week, and we just straight up had BattleBots and grilled cheese night, and went and bought fancy cheese and had BattleBots grilled cheese night. And then when we heard season 2 was rolling around, I got a group of coworkers at that point in time. So that list was Jesse Knurr, Brian Culver, Amanda Morrison, Alex Beatty, and Jason Wyman, and started putting together a application for it, because that process was much more. There's a fair amount of hoops they make you jump through, and some of it's to make sure that you are bringing a unique enough presence, both as a team and as a robot, to contribute to making a better show. There are some people who view BattleBots purely as a competition. It is much more than that. It's trying to be a competition with an entertainment level higher. I don't know if anybody's watching. You can go watch a lot of RoboGames videos, and some of those are entertaining, but others you just end up watching two robots without weapons push each other around a match for 3 minutes. So I had effectively got together a solid group of people at work and started on an application. Had chatted some with Paul and Bob about it. Bob and Tony of IFI have been supporters of BattleBots for a long time back in the day, and actually a whole lot of robots, lots of them still run the older Victor 883 and 885 speed controllers. Then people just have stockpiles of them hidden away. And then Bob also decided he wanted to provide a newer speed controller. He got actually pinged by Carlo Bertoncini, who of Biohazard fame, for anybody familiar with old Comedy Central BattleBot stuff. And he was wanting to make some higher voltage motors, which effectively lets you have a more efficiently running motor for the same amount of power. BattleBots people don't tend to treat it that way. But wanted to kick off design of a new speed controller. And this was 2 years after the Victor SP and Talon SX came out, which was partnership with Crossover Electronics. And me being the mechanical engineer in Vex who was going for having a team, he came with a fun project to me, and I got to start working on that one. And that was a fun project because from a business perspective, it doesn't make very much sense. Bob wanted to do it as a favor to the community of BattleBots that he's been supportive of for so long. So it was kind of an off and on project with regards to my immediate bosses, John Van Noon and Paul Cobilli at that point in time, both saying we would like our engineer working on things that make us more money, and service other much larger groups that the product ranges have, versus working on the speed controller. So it back and forth there a bit. Bob eventually went out, and turns out being one of the owners of the company gives you a little more sway. So I got to help bring that one through. One of the things that ended up happening, we ended up getting accepted into having one of the official 44 spots, not an alternate or anything, because how the season ran on ABC is a little different than how it ran on Discovery this last year. For ABC, you showed up and it was a single elimination tournament. Once you lost a match, you were out and done. That was, wow. And you might get a grudge match later on, maybe. But you could spend all the time, build the robot, go into one fight, one little thing doesn't work, done, you're out. So having an official spot in the 44 and not being an alternate was pretty good there. And I know some of it was Bob's good friends with the founders of BattleBots, Greg Munson and Trey Roski. And I'm pretty sure he probably put in a decent word for us there. But we put in a lot of work on an application, a whole lot of CAD renders and video and of the team introducing us all the background stuff. And then partway through, and as they were still waffling on final legal details, Hexbug signed the toy contract, which part of the player agreement has a stipulation in there, which we knew was possible, of if you are currently working for anybody who is working to exploit the BattleBots brand, and that's just legalese for companies working on selling toys and toy licensing, etc., and advertising. If you're doing any of that, you're not allowed to compete, because there is prize money available for how well you do in competition, etc. So the second money is involved, all those things get mucked up. So at that point in time, it was a little disappointing, but we knew it was possible. So I did manage to make it to 2 days of that filming, just effectively serving as Victor BB support for that speed controller, which for reference of that speed controller, a Victor SP is good for 12 volts. I think peak at like 100 amps. It's good for continuous like 40. The Victor BB speed controller is good for 48 volts at 300 amps-ish continuous. And that was some of the most fun testing I ever got to do at Vex, because it was, here's a massive speed controller. We don't have any power supplies in this building capable of providing enough power to test it, let alone a load capable of testing it. So what ended up actually happening was I was working with Alex Beatty, who's an electrical guy down there and friend of mine, and we jumper cabled 2 of the electric pallet jacks in the warehouse together in order to get a large enough battery, and then took 2 much larger motors they had laying around from very old Victor testing and made them backdrive each other and fight, essentially, and to provide enough load. And you could actually just watch wires jumping back and forth from current flowing through them, which is rather terrifying and awesome. So then Season 2 happened. We had BattleBots and Grilled Cheese Nights again, and in this case, we got to know some of the builders from hanging out for a couple days, because they sent myself, Jason Wyman, and Alex Beatty to filming. So we got to know just some of the builders from that and started some conversations, and I was interested in doing in the future. And a couple months after that, an opportunity fell in my lap. A friend out here was poking me to come apply, and then I went out to California. There was a year drop between Season 1, Season 2 on ABC before I jumped to Discovery, so that ended up somewhat conveniently clearing all of the, you worked at a company that was working on toys, because the stipulation there is a year. So that was all up, and so last October-ish, I got a call from Greg asking if I was still interested in building, because I was still on his radar from that previous application, and had gotten enough of the builders at that point in time where I had built up enough of a reputation where he thinks I could have something done in a more ridiculous schedule. So for Season 3, essentially, I didn't really have much of an application. It was effectively, hey, I'm planning on building a similar robot to what I applied with for Season 2, but obviously new team. Entertainingly, Jason Wyman now lives in Michigan and works on robotic litter boxes, so he was available to come still be a continuing part of the original Season 2 team, to come down and help pit for the event. So if you ask any builder out there how to apply to BattleBots, anyone intelligent will tell you to build a whole lot of small ones first, and that's an intelligent answer. You should do more of that. Luckily, most of the things I was bit by were not essentially new mistakes. I do a pretty good job of doing my research before diving into something new. But yeah, I'm I can dive from here and go into the actual robot concept itself. Yeah, Tyler, if you could bring up one of those videos, the launcher video. So anybody not familiar with Tantrum, it's a spring-powered flipper. So in this instance, the video Tyler's showing, that's a 75-pound, inch-thick stainless steel plate going 12 feet in the air, 16 feet away. This was actually a full-scale prototype of the launcher built before Tantrum was actually built. But it's about how much energy I was looking to get out of a robot that size.
So what month was this? Like, give us a time frame of what that was.
That video, I believe, was December. Okay. I was trying to finish those tests before build season started.
Right. So that's what I was going to ask you, is how did this kind of align with build season, since you were meant to mention you won this basket? Yeah.
So as far as the schedule for BattleBots goes, I'm sure you guys are aware of the 6 weeks that is FRC, or it's actually like 12, and you keep having time to poke at things. BattleBots actually ended up being 6 weeks. It was, all right, you officially go, to you are showing up at the event and you need to have fights in an actual 6 weeks. Anybody who knows me knows I took the ambitious route and went for a little much more than I could quite get, but I really didn't want to show up to BattleBots with something somebody had done before.
Mm.
I wanted my own take and my team's take on a newer concept. And there's a whole lot of things. I think we stepped back and looked at it, and almost every single part of Tantrum was a custom, either modified or off-the-shelf part, or completely from custom. So there's a whole lot of parts on it that are the chassis is a 2-piece billet. So right side and left side, each cut out of a 18 by 11 by 3.5 inch thick piece of aluminum. So it's actually 2 pieces that come together in the middle, and there's a solid 1/4 inch AR400 steel belly pan across the bottom, and the spring on top is 3 pieces of 10 millimeter thick titanium plate, which has been solution treated and aged to be springier. So I actually did a whole lot of that math with Brian Culver of Killer Bees fame, and now, well, now he's out here. He was with Rowan 148 this last year. But we actually managed to go through all that leaf spring math. Yeah. Before talking too much about the spring, the approach we took to designing a robot for BattleBots was essentially, we're going to pick a strategy going forward. And one of my main things is I hate watching the pointing at each other matches, where it's just 2 robots keeping themselves pointed at each other, one trying to outwedge the other one, and that's all that's happening. So we determined the easiest way to avoid that was just having 2 robots in there and playing the multi-bot game, which we realize is a giant strategic issue, because then you have a robot that's half the weight of the other guy, and you need to be dangerous to him still. So we decided, okay, got 2 robots. What are they going to be? From the combat robots paradigm, there's wedges, which you can't really get on BattleBots with. They have a whole lot of hoops you have to jump through, and one of them is having an active weapon of some sort. The allure to wedges is just you can build a really durable robot and then just make the other guy break himself. Next item is spinners. So there's horizontal spinners, vertical spinners, and drums, which are just fatter vertical spinners. Horizontal spinners in this instance, when you hit somebody, equal and opposite reactions. If I weigh half of what they weigh, they go flying. Well, half the speed, I go flying the other way. So that one, physics doesn't really play out well for you when you are half the weight of the other guy. A vertical spinner would be nice as far as being able to hit them and the ground is below you to react all that force, so you can still impart a large force upwards on the opponent. But in that instance, in order to store enough energy in a drum, you need a significant sized drum, significant sized motor to spin said drum, and a lot of battery on board in order to power that. So then we went to the next type. There's also like grabber lifter robots, which are kind of hard to do when you weigh half the other guy, or half the weight of the other guy, from a I'm going to pick you up and then just fall over with you perspective, if I do ever manage to pick you up. And then there's flipper territory. So flippers are also doing the same thing vertical spinners do, where when you flip, you react against the ground, they go flying, so the mass of your robot doesn't really factor into that equation much. So, okay, let's approach this one. And most of the flippers out there, like Bronco, king of flippers, it's all high-pressure air-powered. And other events, such as Robot Wars and some of the China events, they let you use CO2. BattleBots doesn't from a safety perspective of it can freeze over and vent when you're not expecting it. So effectively, we're like, okay, so what if we build an electric flipper? And entertainingly, and I didn't put this together until I was partway through this entire process, I came up with the choo-choo in middle school building a Lego BattleBot. So entertainingly, I got to bring that one full circle and put a choo-choo on a BattleBot. Some of the initial prototypes we made and math we ran was looking at using large coil springs as far as storing energy, of pull down a weapon, stick it underneath the other guy, and let go. FRT teams, mainly stick to surgical tubing, decent sized extension springs, and the like, and sometimes pneumatics. But we shied away from doing CO2 or high pressure air just from the sheer volume of tanks required for the system to have enough energy to actually launch somebody. So we could have went that route, but it would have made the robot bigger, and when the robot gets bigger, all the armor and everything gets thicker and you get weaker. So we didn't want that, so that pushed us towards the electric route. So taking that choo-choo and effectively pulling down a large spring, we quickly went from coil springs and figuring out that the actual energy density you can store in one of those is not that high. For reference, what we ended up with in Tantrum was about 3 kilojoules at full pull down, which is enough to put a 250-pound robot, I think it's like 9 feet in the air or something, assuming 100% efficiency of transfer, which never happens. But we figured that was enough for a 125-pound robot to do.
I would say so. So, after going through all of the, the things that you just talked about,
Sorry.
it's okay. It's really interesting. And it's really cool to see how all of these different components that, you put so much thought and, and research into, it was really cool to see the process. Like I followed along on Facebook and stuff to see how you, made a lot of these custom parts and how they came together in such like a refined looking robot. So once you started, after you got through the testing process and you got through your 6 weeks and just 6 weeks of building your robot, so can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to be on the show and kind of how things went once you were there? Because we obviously see a very refined, edited version of all of this. So once you get 2 BattleBots and you get your pit area, and you had been there before, which I'm sure was like a huge help ahead of time, like kind of knowing what to expect. And Nick, you can hop in and kind of tell us a little bit about what you had seen when you were there as well. But can you give us kind of like a behind the scenes look at what it was like to be, a competitor, a spectator the last time you were there, and, what it's like for the teams? Because obviously what we see is a lot of smoke mirrors and editing and the TV, refined quality that ABC is putting on rather than the reality of it.
Yeah, so I still get entertained anytime I watch an episode now because they do some sweeping panning shots of bright downtown LA. And then we were in a hangar outside of Long Beach Airport in a much less glamorous location. So effectively it was a warehouse style situation with 54-ish teams. And it was 2 weeks straight of filming. And if you were one of the teams that got fully accepted in, they covered hotels, they covered some food as far as lunch every day at the event and some travel stipend and stuff. But it was a full, pretty much picture an FRC event for 2 weeks. And the other part is, since it's a 2-week event, that's a big filter on who's there. So the next part is picture an FRC event for 2 weeks where only the hardcore people from each team are there. You don't have you don't have anybody running around just purely putting up safety advertisements everywhere. You don't have so for reference now, a friend of mine, William Osmond, the YouTuber of questionable project fame, was the safety guy. And as an entertaining person to put in that role. But every single pit at that event was just as helpful as any of the top FRC teams. If you needed something, you can give somebody to hand you a $400 motor because you need it. Mm-hmm. People will go. So effectively on site, there was Lincoln Electric had a whole welding area with MIG, TIG, plasma, arc, every type of machine they have, and also always a person to staff it and work with 4 teams. Tormach on site, and this is my first exposure to actually seeing some Tormach machines, and Tantrum's chassis was actually a part in a Tormach at one point in time, because we found an issue that we would have found with more testing and time. So the actual environment itself is pretty awesome just because you're hanging out with a whole bunch of other people who are stupid enough to do this and passionate enough about it. And you get to poke your head in all of their robots and ask and get all the background on what their choices were. There's a bunch of international teams that came, and some people had beautiful robot, like one of the robots, Reality, from that's a Dutch robot. Mm-hmm. It is meticulous build quality, like right up there with every single FRC robot, top at like Poof's level, attention to detail. It's if not more, and the custom sweet paint job and everything. So it's an awesome environment of people to be around, but 2 weeks is a long time to keep fighting your own. In my case, I spent 2 weeks fighting my own robot. I saw there were some questions with regards to what type of damage did you see the most from other robots. I'm like, I saw most of it for myself. So, Nick, I don't know if you want to jump in on, because you were only, you made it down for a day or two, so.
Yeah, I think the coolest thing for me, like you said, is like everyone's like the top of the top for FRC. They act the same way at BattleBots. Like a lot of times you hear the thing like, oh, FRC is nothing like BattleBots. But I think that's where a lot of people don't understand how like the pits work and how everything else is at BattleBots. Because I was able to walk up to any pit at any time and people would just talk to me about the robot. And they'd go on for 15, 20 minutes if I didn't stop them. And of course, I'm there for work still. So I'm trying to like do my stuff in addition to talk to all these people and try and meet everyone. So everyone there was super friendly. I didn't think I had any negative experiences with anyone ever. I can't say the same about FRC, which is just phenomenal to see all these people that just have the same passion.
Oh, so one of the fun things is Mike and Andrea of Witch Doctor. They actually managed to. They were working with the crew down at Orlando Maker Faire last year. And one of my other side hobbies currently is Power Wheels racing. So effectively taking too large of a person who likes driving go-karts and stuff and putting me in a tiny vehicle and racing against other people in Maker Fairs. It is very stupid. It is very fun. So Mike and Andrea and Paul and crew of Witch Doctor, they wanted to get more people to race Power Wheels cars at Orlando Maker Faire, and he threw out Jason Wyman's name and my name, and they actually compensated us some to show up at their event with Power Wheels cars. So basically I got to go down and hang out in Orlando at the Maker Faire with a bunch of other cool people and race tiny cars. So the Witch Doctor team built a miniature mystery machine, which is like impeccable and beautiful, and had a couple issues and flipped themselves out of it a few times. But they're actually coming up this weekend into Dearborn, Michigan for Detroit Maker Faire, and I'll see them this weekend. So it's entertaining the amount of crossover between various things, because there are also some other FRC mentors that were on BattleBots teams down at the event. So got to meet up with a few new people. There's Kurt Durgin, who is down in Florida. I think he's helped out Spam some. Donald Hudson actually works with a San Diego team or two. Mark Lew's with the Warlords down in San Diego. My team actually ended up with, I had myself, a college friend of mine, Alex Grant, he went to Iowa State, but he now lives in San Diego. He actually works with the Aluminum Falcons. Sean Doherty, who is a dad of one of the kids on N71, who is just entertained by my antics. He's second to left in our profile picture on the BattleBots website. Jason Wyman, who is back up in Michigan, playing with kitty litter robots. Came down to help pit for the week. I managed to rope in one of my coworkers, Erica Chin, who actually helped me out a whole lot. And she basically took it as, okay, Aren needs a shop buddy from making all those parts, and she wanted to learn some more machining stuff. So I got a lot of help machining and teaching and sharing bandwidth there in order to make that happen. And she came in super clutch for that. And then one of the alumni who is now actually an intern with me this summer, Ginger Schmidt, has currently been the one running all of the team's social media, etc., and helping with image brand stuff. So it's a full FRC effort, essentially, coming at it from the Tantrum side of things.
And your titanium magically ended up in my apartment for a while, too. So
yeah, I'm going to continue getting crap about that. It hasn't been for a little.
That's pretty awesome. So, how do you make time for all these different things on top of mentoring 971 and volunteering at other events? Because I know that you've been an LRI, and how do you live? I guess. I mean, we're all overbooked with mentoring and volunteering, but I can't imagine on top of that also building a second really complex robot that you only have 6 weeks to build, and then the mini Power Wheels on top of that. So,
Well, I have a recent favorite quote of the easiest way to get a train moving is to not let it stop. And sometimes there are days I wish I would stop. um, the entertainingly the actual event of BattleBots happening. Build season finished. The actual 6 weeks proper finished, and happily on 971 there's a decent mentor support group. And part of the reason I actually joined 971 when I came out here, as opposed to hunting down another team that could more benefit from my skillage, was because I could leave and do other things, and they would not faceplant. And I'm very happy to see the team I was on in Texas, 1296, has been chicken rear end the last 2 years, doing better than when I was there. It's probably because they have a sense of what level they should be doing, and they're getting there and executing it. And it's working a lot better. So I was having fun I made it to Houston Champs for 2 days, which was the week after BattleBots, and was able to be giving updates to a friend of mine, Katie, of just, hey, by the way, she's a 1296 mentor. By the way, 1296 is now on Einstein, and they straight up earned it. Like, they're there because they did good. It's been fantastic to see that team just growing and doing better, because I know they've gotten a few more IFI people down to help them. So, but yeah, when I leave here, I think I'm going rock climbing, and then I'm working on a few more Power Wheels things to bring with me on a plane to Detroit. And then as soon as Detroit Power Wheels is over, it's back to getting Tantrum to where I want Tantrum to be. Because I mentioned a few things with regards to fighting myself. It turns out in 2014, when I did Build Blitz down at Vex and made a choo-choo in a couple hours, I then got to deal with the ramifications of having a whole bunch of other people try building it when I made it look a little easier than it was, and kept exploding choo-choos. I built a choo-choo that was essentially exploding things. I was at max pull-down force. The spring on Tantrum is around 12,800 pounds. So it's just, I used to drive a Suburban, and it's fun picturing 2.5 Suburbans sitting on top of this thing in order to compress it all the way. I did some testing in a parking lot of undisclosed location, and it's terrifying seeing a big piece of metal that you can jump up and down on and not really see bend as much as it bends. But we ran into a few issues of when the weapon fired, the actual choo-choo link itself would come underneath and hit the ground, sending a giant shock load back through the system, which the gear train design there was designed for the amount of load it would see, with a factor of safety of like about 3. But that was going with loads I knew I was going to see. So when another very large one was introduced, it didn't work out so well. I think one of the biggest kicks FRC people will get out of Tantrum is it was effectively powered by 6 versaplanetaries, highly modified, but versaplanetary guts. From a 6-week build perspective, you go with what you know, and I'm pretty familiar with how to make those things live. So I'm actually using about 40 millimeter diameter in-runner brushless motors. I went all brushless from a power density perspective. For reference, one of my motors is good for about 3,000 watts as opposed to a sim at 300. I was running a 48 volt system. So I had 4 motors on drive, each with an individual drive pod. There was a 7-to-1 and a 4-to-1 reduction, but the 4-to-1 reduction, the carrier output plate was the wheel disc essentially. So I was able to take that stack and add a 5th planet gear to it, which fits. So the drive pods, those ones were all bulletproof with regards to the gear train and such. I ended up having some Hall effect issues on those motors because I was running all censored brushless motors using VSC speed controllers, which I had some experience with in Power Wheels racing, entertainingly. So just tying in the hobbies. And then there were 2 of them on the weapon that were running an 81-to-1 reduction that started out as 2 9-to-1s and later shifted to 9-to-1, 3-to-1, 3-to-1 towards the output. And one part I've actually made since the event is a completely custom output shaft with carrier plate integrated. That's a 3-to-1 with 7 planets around it. And part of that's just I can quickly, easily obtain high-quality gears by buying a Vex Pro gear set and fit them into whatever I want in whatever particular niche, because I did other things with regards to welding in planet pins, boring out gears and putting needle bearings inside of them, and all of it was just little upgrades that could make them handle a lot more than they see in FRC.
That's pretty awesome. So we have a lot of questions from our viewers, and we're going to hop into those right now. So Ryan from 1720 Fixed Gears wants to know, when do we get to see more Tantrum on BattleBots? And I want to know that too, because I'm anxiously awaiting it.
All right, so disclosure for this one, I was fighting myself for 2 weeks. So most of the robots get 3 or 4 fights before a tournament at the end if you do well enough. So in my instance, my second fight is not being aired because it was a lame fight in which I drove forward approximately 10 feet and proceeded to beach myself on my own choo-choo running backwards for safety reasons. So that I'm okay with that not being shown because it wasn't, it's a little embarrassing. It's like, oh, what happened? It's software problem. Well, hardware, yeah. So my second fight was actually against Mecha Rampage, which is Christian Carlsberg is one of the old school BattleBots guys from back in the day. He was a great guy and actually occasionally is up in Palo Alto and pretty close to me. So that one's not being shown, but there
are more
fights down the line, but I can't disclose those.
Okay, good. As long as there's more. Sam from 842, the Biomex, wants to know, in the last year, which of your projects seemed reasonable but totally weren't, and why?
It was BattleBots. If I start a Power Wheels car and I don't finish it, nothing, no real issue there. Part of my favorite part about that is nothing really matters. Good enough is good enough. Well, and I knew BattleBots didn't really seem that reasonable, but I either go for it or I don't. And in this position, I went for it. What I did bring and the amount of custom fancy machining and design time that went into that thing, I think I earned a whole lot of street credit among the other builders. And a whole lot of them, it was kind of fun. Going up against Mecha Rampage, who's a big horizontal bar spinner, I just had him staring at my robot going, it's a brick. Like, what am I going to do to it? And I was happy to see their reaction. So, entertainingly, the cheeseburger fight, every single person on that cheeseburger team knows each other from Power Wheels, and the founder of the Power Wheels Racing Series is on that team. So I'm actually facing some of their people at Power Wheels Detroit this weekend. But so if anybody does any research into that, there's a thing called Moxie, which is essentially putting on a show, and this is partially a reason as to why they have a giant combat cheeseburger. But we found out we were facing them and figured we would join in the fun, and added Spatula, which has some downside performance-wise, but we happily weren't that concerned about losing to a cheeseburger, more worried about blowing ourselves up. So if anybody complains about the flip strength in this, it was about 30% of full power in order to not explode itself, and the spatula shifted everything way forward. So this one I was mainly happy with how well the drivetrain and everything performed, but yeah.
Hey Aaron, how do you approach a match when you go into it? Like this match that you had against this giant cheeseburger, like what is the setup and preparation that goes into that?
Okay, so part of it was we immediately found out that the other team was pissed because they believed there were 2 robots at the event that they couldn't hit, and one of them was us if our weapon was down, if their blade was just too high. So effectively, you just go over and scope out the other robot and look at build quality. A lot of it's looking at what height weapons are effective at. It was kind of nice being able to stare at it and go, if the spatula is up, and yep, right between the buttons. All right, and just shove them around everywhere. But you're just looking for weak spots, looking for various things that could make them hang up, etc. It's interestingly enough not that different from scoping out opponents in an FRC match, but you usually don't. There's a lot less scouting data involved, and more just looking at the actual robot. A couple of robots, there's enough info out there that you can have scouting data essentially, but not much.
Cool. So Chris from 5712 wants to know what your reasoning for going with a flipper style mechanism was, and I think that you did a really good job explaining that, especially when you were explaining, thinking about 2 robots. So we're going to proceed on to the next question, but
that
Chris,
I never clarified. The 2 robots went to 1 robot when a 6-week timeline was given to me. So effectively, I took 1 robot and hulked it out from an armor perspective.
What do you have? It's like 3/4 inch steel running.
It's 1/2 inch AR 400 around the outside.
1/2 inch around it. Okay.
All of that was then shock mounted with like an inch of rubber behind it, on top of the billet frame. So I wasn't really worried about somebody getting through to my important bits.
Your robot is literally bulletproof.
It's a brick. Yeah.
Epic. So Justin from 1414, iHot Robotics, wants to know which motors and speed controllers are well suited for BattleBots of the weight class shown on the show, and which ones do you use on your robot and why?
So BattleBots are, the show is every single robot's a 250-pound weight limit. In my instance, Tantrum ended up weighing around 230, and that's not because I didn't want to be 250. I tried. Just everything's really beefy. People gave me crap for big aluminum fists, and they weighed like 8 pounds a piece or something. But yeah. So often the leading predominant motor controller and motor is a mag motor or a amp flow motor, which is effectively a large neodymium magnet brushed motor with very low resistance and capable of drawing a whole lot of amps, which one's called amp flow for that reason. But a lot of competitors don't fully understand how much power they're throwing at things, because there are very few speed controllers that can keep up with those. Oftentimes, people will actually run. Many of those motors come with 2 sets of brushes at the back, so they actually run 2 Victor 883 or 885 speed controllers per motor. And then there's also a lot of people running the Victor VB speed controllers, which anybody who's running them at higher voltages typically just looks at the numbers and says, oh, this one's way more powerful. And despite the fact that motor has the same thermal mass as the 24-volt version, they act like they can get twice the power out of it, and then they end up cooking them and blowing stuff up and blaming speed controllers and motors as opposed to just poor design. Most of the veterans have been doing it a while gear their robots for like 12 miles an hour territory, which is like, I don't know, 17, 18 feet per second tops, and trundle along just fine because you're throwing way more power to the drivetrain side in a 250-pound robot than anywhere near where FRC stuff is at. So
yeah, most of the time you're even traction limited by the BattleBox surface.
You can just do full drifts everywhere you go. I've rewatched.
It's not like carpet, so
I've rewatched the Burger fight, and there are multiple times I see my robot doing a 4-wheel drift of. Tantrum was geared for 21.5 feet per second, running full 971 cheesy drive code. That robot does have software in it, and it is a pistol grip controller running full cheesy drive. So there's FRC drive code running a BattleBot.
Aren, would you say that you guys run more software than most of the other BattleBots teams as well?
Oh, for sure. There are a few other robots there that run more, and I think it's just Chomp. Chomp runs more. Everybody else is pretty much a radio receiver going PWM straight to motors and just splitting out, and that's it. So the fact the speed controllers I was using from Longboards actually have CAN. So I had a receiver with all signals from it going to a Teensy microcontroller with a little breakout board, and was running CAN to all of my speed controllers, which cleaned up wiring a lot versus a bajillion PWM cables. So same reason people like it in FRC. The other nice thing is you can get feedback from the controller back. So I went the less traditional route. There's some other people running some other brushless things, but lots of them are sensorless. I'm not a giant fan of that level of should work. Nope, blew itself up. So, yeah.
Cool. So Ronnie S. wants to know how much hot chocolate was consumed in the making of Tantrum.
A decent amount. I also have started on the Soylent kick, so there's a whole lot of chocolate Soylent. I almost landed them as a sponsor. Almost.
Oh. to try for next season.
Just asking the right people.
So Clayton from Team 100, the Wild Hats, wants to know, when fighting, what part of the robot has failed most often? What do you think is the most critical failure point on your robot?
So I left BattleBots with a list of 3 main things I needed to fix. I needed to beef up the output stage of my weapon versus planetaries, because the initial reduction is that, then there's a large spur reduction after that, then a chain reduction. So I needed to beef up that output. The motors I purchased because they came with Hall effect sensors in them already. And when I received them, the mounting for said sensors was a little chintzier than I thought would survive, and was proven right. So I blew up a lot of sensors and motors, and effectively I'm just going to be rolling my own from a mounting perspective. So that didn't help at all. And then also I need to add an additional hard stop strap to the weapon, because right now, from a failure mode perspective, if I pull the weapon all the way down and dry fire, I rip a 6mm pin out of a piece of S7 tool steel and just break effectively the weapon chain end link. And just the sheer amount of force to do that's kind of terrifying. So I need some hard stop strap.
More strap. That always fixes everything.
Yeah.
So Jeremy from 5012 Griffin Gears wants to know, what's your favorite part of Tantrum? There are so many dope bits, like the wheel pads, launcher choo-choo, and the billet fist, but what was your favorite thing to design?
I think my favorite part of Tantrum is just the level of packaging we're able to achieve. The robot was half the size of most of the other robots there, and that let us have just ridiculous armor on the outside of the thing. So it's basically how it all came together. The wheel pods are nice because it was a self-contained motor gearbox drive wheel, all in the weight of, so for reference, the mag motors I talked about earlier, the smaller one is like 4 pounds. So in this case, I had my motor, gearbox, and wheel all in about the same volume and weight as the motor other people were using. So
awesome. So we're going to start our giveaway right now.
Yep.
If you would like to, win our awesome giveaway, you do need to be a subscriber. And the keyword for our giveaway is follower. So don't forget, if you're a follower or subscriber, you get 5 times the chance to win these giveaways. But you must follow the channel to enter. So good luck to everybody. And if you're watching with a team, don't forget to log on into chat right now, as each person has a chance to win. So our keyword tonight is going to be Tantrum. So put in that keyword, and good luck to everybody. So while we are doing our giveaway, Nick, do you want to talk a little bit about Hexbug and how they've done a pretty cool partnership with BattleBots? I do have some of the Hexbug BattleBots in this room somewhere, so I'd love to hear more about that before we hop into some more questions.
Yeah, so I started in Hexbug in 2017. That was just after the initial release of Tombstone and Witch Doctor and the BattleBot set. So I didn't really have much to do with that. That was more of the Aren, Alex Beatty, Jason Wyman crew that were there before me. But it's a pretty fun project to work on, especially since I've been a huge BattleBots fan my entire life. It's pretty cool getting to work with the builders on the toys, which is some of the best parts, because you start to grow some friendships by, working on toys with people who just really want to see their robot as a toy. Some of these guys are more excited to have a toy than to actually compete on the show sometimes, which is pretty awesome. And I get to make that a reality. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. A lot of people tend to ask who decides what toy we make. And I can't really say other than we work with the BattleBots producers on who's going to come up next. It's not like it's just me getting to decide what toy I get to make. So if that were true, we'd have a lot different robots than what we have right now.
And I haven't bugged you yet, just because I want another stab at BattleBots before I come and annoy you for one.
Yeah.
That would be epic. That's pretty awesome. So, and it's been really cool to see more and more robots kind of come out and debut, and the different sizes too. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else you guys come out with after this season. And I know we've had a lot of fun kind of just derping around with ours at the robotics lab, and I'd put my leopard gecko on one and made her ride it around. So
Nice.
they're good for
Yeah, we just released the teaser for the next two, which were totally designed by me, which is pretty cool. We got Bronco and the new Witch Doctor for season 3. So it's got the cool rib cage armor and everything else on there. And then I actually got to unveil those to the builders at the BattleBots filming, which was pretty cool because most of them hadn't seen the toy yet. And their reactions are pretty great. And they got to play with it a little bit and take a look. So it was pretty awesome just being there as well.
So I actually asked the Witch Doctor guys came into season 1 of BattleBots on ABC, and their explicit first number 1 goal at the top of the whiteboard: get a toy. Number 2, win everything. So the FRC team's going in, they're going win champs, win. No, theirs was obtain toy, win matches.
Priorities, you know.
I mean, it's a pretty fun priority.
Gives you money, so.
Hey, and you know, in one of them
hobby going.
Keeps your robot in the household of, you know, a gajillion people. So we're gonna go through a few more questions before we wrap things up tonight. So let's see. Isaac from 7308 Deep Vision wants to know how much time was spent planning, brainstorming, designing, and pitching to BattleBots as opposed to actually building Tantrum. From looking at BattleBot's website, it seems like you have to design your BattleBot before you can even apply, which you did talk a little bit about before, but is there anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, the actual hardcore first effort from the application back for season 2 on ABC was probably, I would say, 2 months of meeting a lot after working on weekends to plow through a lot of stuff from a design perspective. And looking back at it, I'm somewhat a little happy that they didn't actually let us compete, because looking at what we actually had planned and had we built it, I'm pretty sure it would have exploded immediately. So yeah, and then after that one, I just plodded along for a while and started. We had recatted the thing enough times after that where I just really wanted to know, is this going to work? So I started on a prototype of it, and then after that, it lined up with actually starting to build one for the actual show.
Yeah, and speaking of prototypes, just talking with a lot of the builders too, a lot of people don't realize like how short the actual time frame is as well, because you got to ship your robot out there and everything. Especially for like the international builders, like most of the international guys had their robot done in like 3 weeks because of shipping and everything. So a lot of people are like, oh man, why was that robot so bad? It's like, well, half of them are going in completely untested because there's not a good way to test, you know, a 80-pound drum spinner safely without it being in the actual battle box.
That's the thing. I will admit, I did pretty much spend 2 weeks going, man, I wish I had a spinner, because that one's at least easier to go into a match and know you're going to spin the thing. From a mechanical complexity perspective, and not having it blow up on you. At least get in the match and then blow up on you. But
yeah. All right. So Tyler, do you think that we should do our giveaway winner real quick, since we are nearing 10 o'clock? All right. So let's announce our winner, and then we'll do, you know, maybe 2 more questions before we wrap things up completely for tonight. So Tyler, do you want to draw a winner and let us know who that is?
We just did. The winner is going to be Parker Duncan 7 has won. Congratulations, and thanks for following our channel. And please shoot me a message on Twitch, and we'll get you that. And if you are a sub and you didn't win, make sure you throw in those rigged emotes. Let everybody know your frustration with it as well. Hey,
I tried to pull a mic and win too.
Yeah, Aren, I got to ask you a question, and I want to have the audience actually listen to this as we go through, but I'm wondering what you thought. I'm going to mispronounce his name, of Farouk's intro of your robot in your first match. I don't know if you recall it or remember it.
It was mainly, hey, I think that sports reference I actually get.
All right, let's take a listen to it real quick, and let's see what everybody thinks about it.
Hey, I'm hungry. Let's take you inside the box.
Swear it'll make you a bigger crybaby than Tom Brady. Oh, come on. You think I care if Boston fans hate me? It's Tantrum!
Oh, look at that, Jenny. Aren Hill actually installed a spat.
Cool.
All
So we're gonna go.
So hold on, I got to get Aaron's response on this though. Do you know what the audience thought about that? Because that was a big sports reference, making fun of New England Patriots and saying he's an Eagles fan there.
Anything that this is the New England Patriots is good for me.
So personally, yeah, I don't watch any sports. So this one, like, I had just enough tangential knowledge to have some clue what it was about, but it's not something I make time for, so I was kind of entertained. Yeah.
All right, so we have one last question, and I think it's probably one of our best questions of the night, and the name of this person's username is pretty awesome. Dogger Mateo wants to know, how useful is the knowledge you've learned and first become in your life, especially with BattleBots?
So I think the biggest thing first did for me on this perspective was the continually throwing brand new challenges at me just when I was a student on the team and going through stuff. And I think the other biggest thing is one of the biggest reasons I actually got to the point of applying and getting on was the network I had built. I ended up doing first in high school, going to college, getting a job at Vex, largely because of my experience and stuff I had publicly put out, and being a decent, they knew I was a pretty creative person, and I got a job because of my FRC experience, and that got me into the crowd with some of the early BattleBot people, and then coming from that and just continuing building the network, I now know a whole lot of other BattleBot builders and can get involved with any of them working on other stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of it's the network building. There's a ton of amazing people out there you can work with, and any team of people puts together better things than just one person. So the more people you get to know and be able to bounce stuff off of and work with, the better.
Absolutely, and that's something that you really can't get anywhere else, especially, in high school. So that's going to take people pretty far, just beyond, way beyond just your career, but also for awesome things like BattleBots. So that's going to wrap it up for Robots and Roasts, or Roasts and Robots. Thank you for everybody who's been helping make the show possible. And a huge thank you to Aren for coming on tonight and giving us an inside look at, all of his BattleBots experiences and everything else. So Aren, anything else you want to plug or leave us with before we end today? I know you talked a lot about the Detroit Maker Faire coming up.
Yeah, I'm going to have some fun there. So the company I work at, Oris Health, was actually my largest actual monetary sponsor for this, in addition to letting me have 2 weeks off work to go do it. And also free access to the machine shop. So thanking them for support. There's also other BattleBot sponsors of E2E Manufacturing, which is a nearby manufacturing shop, which actually did the entire billet chassis for me in 2.5 weeks. Wow. And then Spectrum RC actually sponsored, and I had a radio transmitter with Android on it, so I could watch YouTube videos while driving my robot. Not necessarily called for yet, but awesome. Mm-hmm. So all of that was very helpful. So feel free, if you're a competitive mechanical engineering college student from an FRC perspective, Oris is always looking for interns for future summers, etc., and co-ops. Feel free to get a hold of me. You can find me on Chief or whatever, so not too hard to get a hold of. But yeah,
awesome.
I think that covers that.
Well, thank you, Nick, as well, for having the awesome on-camera presence. We don't often get that on Fun. What's going on with you this summer, and will you be at any more off-season events?
Off-season events, I don't think so. Probably taking a little bit of a break from those. But I'm actually going to be doing Power Wheels, same as Aren. Nice. We're not going to be up at the Detroit one, but I know there's one down in Houston coming up in a month or so. So I got a crew of a couple FRC people.
What is this, first or what?
I was going to say, maybe we need to do a Power Wheels specific show, because it sounds like there's a huge following. And
no rules.
I mean, there are rules, but they're limited, so that's the nice
None
part.
of them are ever applied.
and it's like super cheap, because you have a $500 budget. I mean, yeah, you can go above that for like R&D purposes, but I mean, most of the people are just there to have fun. So it's a lot lower stress than FRC for sure.
So for reference, I've got the 971 dev team. I've been working with a few of them for this last Detroit, and for this race, we're actually running a completely custom brushless speed controller that we made in-house purely to race a tiny go-kart faster. So if you were to actually build the engineering hours that have went into this thing, it's a little ridiculous. So,
yeah, where's that on your bomb?
It's a bunch of parts because we put it together.
Brilliant. Thank you, both of you, for coming on tonight. I think that we will definitely have a Power Wheels show in the future. But if you want more First Robotics in your life and like what we're doing here, we would be absolutely delighted to have you click that follow, or even better, the subscribe button to help support Fun and to get some awesome benefits. If you have an Amazon Prime account, don't forget that you can subscribe to Fun for free, or it's just a few bucks a month. So, Tyler, can you let us know who helps support tonight's show?
Yeah, we're delighted to read off those who have stepped up to help support Fun so we can create cool shows like that. And we thank everybody for tuning in for this pilot show as well. So we got quite a few that we got to read off here. Kidusana with the Tier 1 sub, Mirrorman95 Tier 1 sub. I read a couple of these off earlier from our previous stream, but Backup Boy, 6 months with Prime. Garrison Hefter, Tier 1 sub. CDF Man, Prime for 4 months. FTC Live for 4 months. BTM 225 Tier 1 sub. MMM 1506 Tier 1 sub. NLS GRN with their Prime sub. Brandon 4188 with the Prime sub. Kyle Chow 2000 with the Prime sub. And CMC Brad 166, 11 months of support. Thank you so much to everybody. And thank you to those who also gave bits during the stream as well.
Amazing. So just a reminder, during the show this summer, we'll have live shows on Fun every Tuesday starting at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you stop by, and don't forget to check out our Discord to keep the conversation going between shows and to stay live up to date with everything Fun. On behalf of myself and our producer, Tyler, I would like to thank you for tuning in tonight. And thank you, Aren and Nick, for dropping in. And thank you to all of our moderators in chat. And we'll see you next time on Fun, and we'll talk to you then. Bye.